Hello everyone, and welcome to the unboxing of Umbraco 17, the new major release for our open source .NET CMS. I'm Lottie, Head of Developer Relations, and I'm joined today by three of my wonderful colleagues. The Technical Product Manager and Developer on the CMS, Niels. Hello Niels.
Hello, Lottie.
And CMS Senior Developers, Laura. Hello Laura.
Hello, Lottie.
And Nikolai. Hello Nikolai.
Hi, Lottie.
I think, who's been on an unboxing video before, apart from me? Anyone? No?
I can't
Us
remember.
three?
No, all new
All new.
faces.
Not if you have. Well, Laura, you haven't been. How long have you been working at HQ for?
I think 6 months now.
6 months. Okay, then I can clarify. This is definitely your first unboxing. Well,
Yeah.
welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining me. As always, we're going to talk about what's new and what you need to know before you upgrade. But first of all, I just want to say congratulations to you three and the rest of the CMS team, because it's a major release. It's a milestone release. I think of it as a major milestone, really. It is. 14 was the start of a long journey of getting a new architecture in the back office. And here we are releasing the long-term support feature complete version. So well done to you all. Speaking of releases, such a smooth segue there. This is the release schedule that we have, and the beautiful pinky purple arrow is telling you where we are. We are out LTS 17, which is now on .NET 10, which came out a couple of weeks ago. So we're very hot on the heels of Microsoft, as we like to be. If you were on 14 or 15, then you should have been upgrading, because short-term, standard term, I always do that, standard term support releases, we do expect you to keep upgrading. But there are a lot of people who stay LTS and only upgrade to LTSs. So there's going to be quite a few of you who are watching who are perhaps still on 13 and maybe haven't been keeping as up to date as others on what's been happening since 13. So for those of you, we're going to do a whirlwind tour of what happened. So, Umbraco 14, Niels.
Yes. Yeah, as you said, this was the first release of the new back office, we call it, the Bellissima project. And this is where we put the carpet on you in terms of the front end customizations. We got rid of the Angular JS framework, which was a legacy framework or not supported anymore, and went with a web components approach. This means that we are now framework agnostic. Web components is a component format supported by browsers. So most front-end frameworks can now compile into web components, and we can now use these web components in the back office. So that's actually really nice. Another really important thing to notice about this release is that we went from a few extension points to a proper extension API. And this extension API is a runtime API. It can be manipulated at runtime, meaning things can be late registered. You can also remove things. And there's an important detail. If you are a package developer providing a package from Umbraco, you can now also use this extension API to give others ability to extend your package. So it's not limited to the core. Packages can use it as well. Then it's also worth highlighting we got rid of all the front-end services and are now using a context API. The context API is a new way for you to communicate with the application. It's, I think I would say it's more agile because of the term context. It's contextually, so it knows what makes sense for you to communicate with. It's a whole lesson on itself, so I won't bore you with that now. But I think the takeaway is that now you are able to integrate with almost anything in the back office. So that's a really nice a new ability for you who like to customize or integrate things in the UI. Then we also got away from a lot of custom endpoints into what we call the management API, which gives a clear separation of the backend and the front end of Backoffice. So now everything communicates through this, and it's a API that you can integrate with as well. So programmatically, you can now do everything the Backoffice can do. So again, a great way for you to integrate various things. So all of this together means that we now have this extension first approach. Which means that we try to do the best we can for making extensions live and thrive in the back office. And actually to enforce that, we made almost anything in the back office extensions itself. Which means everything you can see in the back office, you can also do. You can provide similar features, but it also means through the extension API, you can actually take away back office features if you like to slim down. So I think that's the highlights of 14, which was the first release in this saga, I guess you can say, towards V17.
Yeah, and then a year ago when .NET 9 came out, Umbraco 15 came out. And Niels, you're going to tell us what the caching changes are, weren't you?
Yeah, exactly. So we went away from the old cache, which was caching everything in memory. So that could sometimes lead to a long startup time. Now we have a lazy loaded cache strategy using the new .NET Hybrid Cache. There's a lot of details about how you can do the cache. We have a good default way to cache, but there's also opportunities for you to customize how you like to cache. V15 also came with a new rich text editor called TipTap, a replacement of the tiny MCE rich text editor. It's actually a nice new rich text editor that has more control and more customizations than before. You can be more specific on what type of tags you like to enable editors to use. And as well, better customization options. We also brought another really important feature for content managers, which is the ability to vary on block level. Previously, you had to create your blocks either as shared across all variants or specifically for all variants. Block level variation enables you to have data within blocks that varies, but without having the blocks varying across cultures.
Yeah, I've worked on enough sites which have complicated layouts, and then you have to go and replicate that entire layout in order to make a tiny bit of it translated. And so, yeah, this is a very big reason for people to have upgraded to 15, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly. And then in relation to the management API, now that we have a management API, you might want to communicate with that from other services. And to enable you to do that in a secure way, we brought a feature called API users, which are users you can create that are not real users, human users, but API users that other services can use to integrate with the management API. So nice features again for extensibility.
And
that's
then
it for
comes
15.
then comes Umbraco 16.
Yeah. So during 16, maybe I have to say for 14, we removed the so-called sending content notifications. And during 16, we brought some alternatives. Of that, we have the property preset values, which is a way for you to set a default value for properties. And this is now a front-end extension, so it can be a bit more dynamic than what you had previously, where it was defined on the server. We also now have content type create filters, a way for you to limit what are the create options for specific node. This is still a server extension, but a proper server customization, so not just a hack. And then we also introduced property level permissions in the front end. So it's not one that takes effect on the server, but in the front end you are able to hide properties or mark them as read-only. So another way for you to customize without hacking things.
Yeah, I think there was an awful lot of hacking, it turns out. Hacking
Yeah.
meaning successfully implementing client requirements with the product that they had, with sending content notifications. And I think we've been learning a lot. There's a really long discussion on GitHub with all the weird and wonderful ways that people have used this. And we're doing our best to give proper supported solutions to the most popular things that people have been using that for.
Exactly. Yeah. Because if you via the sending content notification are just manipulating the model, then it can easily become go out of hand. So we like to provide features that does this for you. That's way more secure moving forward and upgrading. As well, we provided or will be providing a package. I think it's in beta now, but a package called Umbraco CMS Search. It's a search abstraction that this package gives, enabling you to provide any search of your choice. Could be Algolia or Elasticsearch, etc. In time, this package is supposed to be part of core. But for now, here in the early phase, it's a package that you have to install into your version of Umbraco. So yeah, if you like to scale up your search abilities, go have a look at this package.
Definitely, or find some blogs written by Ken on the subject. I think. Thank you, Niels. The whirlwind tour of 3 releases. But now let's talk about Umbraco 17 out today. And the first thing is to say, remember to install .NET 10 before you upgrade, which is something that I usually forget to do because it's only been out for 2 weeks. So I'm not an early adopter. Now here's something that's for years, Nikolai, we've been saying, forever in fact, we've been saying you can't load balance the back office.
Yes.
Am I right that it's now no
Yes.
longer true?
That is no longer true. It has always been written in the Umbraco tomes that you must not load balance back office. But finally, that's no longer true. And it really came about that we had a meeting. It was like we really want to load balance back office. And the interesting thing was that no one could really answer why. Why can't you load balance back office? Because that has just become the Umbraco law. So really the first part of this project was just sitting down and figuring out, okay, what's wrong? What blows up when you try to load balance the back office? So we found 5 or so different points that was really the issues. Some of these were pretty like obvious and straightforward. Like if you have background tasks or long running operation that needs to be handled in a specific way when load balancing back office. But I think one of the more interesting one was that we have these repository caches that are isolated to each server. They're also called isolated caches. And that turned out to be a huge issue when you're load balancing because you may be in a situation where one server is asked to save a document and then the second server is asked to publish the document. And then the second server would get an out of date document to publish because it was cached in its repository cache. So that was a lot of effort trying to develop a system where we now keep a cache version for each cache on a server, and then we can check if it's out of date, and if it is, we can roll it forward. And then there was some other stuff, and we kind of spit that out into the team and got it fixed. So now we can finally say that you can actually load balance the back office.
One sentence for a lot of months of investigation and improvements. And I guess people with smaller sites won't have possibly wanted to load balance the back office, but I know that we have some sites where they have an awful lot of nodes and an awful lot of editors around the world, and so there definitely are people who will be very excited by being able to do this. So the obvious next question, Nikolai, is how do they do it?
Yes. And it's also an interesting thing you can do now as well, that you can load balance the back office, is you can actually scale it down all the way to one instance. So you can have a non-load balanced Umbraco side, and then if you see a spike in traffic, you can use something that auto scale out on Azure to then actually automatically suddenly have a load balance side, which is very cool. But yes, there's a couple of extra steps you do now have to do if you want to load balance the back office, and they're all documented on our Umbraco docs. There's a specific load balancing the back office page. One interesting thing was, like I mentioned before, we have this issue with the repository caches, which is we have decided to make this an opt-in feature to keep track of these cache versions, because there's of course somewhat of a performance hit when you have to keep checking if your caches are up to date, which we are pretty confident about because we have limited, so it's only really affected on the back office. So there's no impact to your front end performance, but nonetheless, we've made this opt-in. Then there's a few other minor things that you have to do, which is documented in the documentation. Yeah, that should be
Cool.
it.
I'll put a link to the specific URL in the show notes, as they say on podcasts. And we've got here, the old way still works. So if you've got your way of load balancing your Umbraco instance now, you won't have to change anything. Is that right?
You can just upgrade normally, and then everything will still work, and you can choose to opt in to load balance in the back office or not.
That's the point about using Azure to scale. Yeah, so if you know you've got an intense week of lots of editors doing some work, scale it up while not, and then bring it back to when it's quiet. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Also, if you're suddenly expecting more traffic, you can scale it out. You don't have to go and set up load balancing to then scale it out. You can set it out beforehand.
Nice. Well, thank you for all your hard work, Nikolai and team.
Yes, thanks.
It's always a team effort, but it's nice to have you on here because you've spent a lot of your year working on this. So, well done. Speaking of people who've spent a lot of their time working on something, Laura, something else that's coming in 17 is what we're calling consistent handling of dates. How were we inconsistent? If you could explain that.
Yeah, so before Umbraco 17, most of Umbraco's system dates were stored in server time. So with system dates, we mean things like the create, update date of a content node, or even the last login date of a user. So this caused some issues in the past where, for example, dates would be assumed as UTC while they weren't. So comparisons wouldn't work as expected. And then also if you change servers to a different time zone, all of your dates would be wrong, so like shifted. So in the past, the general recommendation was to run Umbraco on a server with the time zone set to UTC, but that is no longer the case because now we are using UTC for all of our system dates. This ensures that dates are consistent across time zones. You also don't need to worry about daylight savings time or like a duplicate or missing hours. And we're no longer dependent on the server location or the configured time zone. This does not include, however, the dates picked with the content pickers or the dates picked through content, because those in the date picker, we didn't really have any information on the time zone, so we couldn't guess what that actually meant. It was up to the editor or the developer to agree on that. Maybe it was UTC, maybe it was for that website that they had a certain time zone that they used. And so with changing all to UTC, we also created a migration. So we migrate all of the current dates to UTC. And this runs during the 17 upgrade process. It uses database scripts, and it basically detects your server's time zone. So it knows how to convert to UTC. If you're already in UTC, then nothing will run. But it can also be configured using app settings, so you can disable or enable the migration, and you can also replace the server time zone to one that you know, but you shouldn't need to do that, really. It should just work. And while we were looking into that, we also, because we couldn't do anything with the datetime picker because it was lacking information, we decided to introduce a new datetime picker, which is datetime with time zone, that now has datetime time zone support. And while also looking into that one, we decided to introduce 3 more. So to improve the developer experience. So date only, time only, that were introduced in .NET 6. So I guess I'll show a bit of how that works now. Okay, so if I go to the settings, data types, I try to create a new data type. Now you'll see a new date group, and that has the 4 new property editors. So date only, date time unspecified, date time with time zone, and time only. So date only and time only were the ones that I mentioned with the C# types. Date time unspecified is basically for compatibility with the old date time. And then the new one, date time with time zone. So I already created a few of them here. So for date only, there's not really much configuration. It's just the date. For time only, you can actually configure the time format. So it's basically the granularity, whether you want it to be able to configure seconds or not. For date time unspecified, also the time granularity, not much to configure there. But then for the date time with time zone, you actually have 3 time zone modes. So one of them is the all, that will display all of the available time zones to the user. So a big list with all of the time zones. Then in custom, you can actually predefine a list of time zones. So these are all the time zones that you can configure, but then you can select, maybe for this website, we only want the editor to be able to select 2, or maybe because it's even less overwhelming to only see 2 and not this huge list. And then there's also the local mode, which will only display the local time zone of the user. So it will say you're in Amsterdam. For example, in my case, this is the time that you're configuring. So if I go over to my test page, I created a few fields with each type. So for date only, it just looks the same as the previous date time picker, at least in the UI. For time as well. Then the date time unspecified, the same as the previous one, the date picker. And then when you come with date time with time zone, then you have the drop down where you can select the time zone. You can also type in, so it makes it easier to select your own. And then if you select a time zone that is not the same time zone as your browsers, then you'll see a message explaining how this time zone differs from your own. So in this case, for Tokyo, it says that the offset is UTC +9. And in Amsterdam time, it says that, well, I chose 10:57, but in Tokyo, it's actually 2 a.m. So you can better see how the time you're selecting compares to your own, so you can make sure you're selecting the right one for that website. Then for the custom, it's just basically the same thing, but then you only show a couple of options that might be relevant for your website. And for the local, you don't really have an option. It will always show your own time zone. We thought that might be useful. But then in the end, it always stores these dates in UTC for consistency. And then if we look at the old date time picker, it basically looks the same. One thing to note is that you can actually convert from the old date time picker to the new one. Just for example, if I go here, have the date picker with time, which is the new one. So I can just change to use, for example, date time unspecified, which is the equivalent. And if I save, refresh, then it will just show the same. It will work the same also in your views, for example, where you're using with Models Builder. It will just work the same. Then I wanted to show. So basically, if you create a new page with the date time with time zone, then your time zone will be pre-selected because we assume that maybe you want to select using your time. So then you can change to use another one. Of course, if you have this one and yours is not on the list, it will select the first one. Now I created a view that will show all of the properties that I have on my page, what their editor alias is, and the C# the time this is returned. So in this case, for the date only picker, it will return a system date only. And for time only, time only. So you know exactly, for example, with Models Builder, you know exactly the type that you'll get, that this property is only for a type, while before it was always a date time. So if you wanted to just type in a time, you would get a date time and you have to ignore the date part, for example. Now it's clear what you really want. And then when you're selecting with time zone, you will actually get a date time offset. So you know that the offset that was picked, that in my case, it was +1. One thing that I forgot to mention is that in the daytime with time zone, it also takes into account daylight savings time. So if I pick, let me see, pick Copenhagen. So the time is the same as for me in Amsterdam, but this is November. If I switch to June, then you'll see that now it's UTC +2. And it's still, in this case, it's still the same date because daylight saving time changes at the same time. But for some, it could be that it shifted like 1 hour, for example. And then I thought maybe I would show the delivery API. So if I come here and I ask for my page, I get all my properties. And this is basically the serialization of .NET. So if I have a date only, it will just return the date. If I have a time only, it will just return the time. And also with the offset, if it's datetime with offset. And basically it's in ISO format, so easy to use. And I think that's it.
Amazing. Yeah, it's definitely been confusing working in a site that is edited around the world when you just have a date time of like, what time zone is this? So that makes a lot of sense. And I can see as well that load balancing, schedule publishing, things like that, we kind of need to know exactly what the time is where. So thank you, Laura. And congratulations on your demo. That was excellent.
Thanks.
We're now going to talk about the UI improvements that have been coming and are now in 17. And first of all, let's just celebrate that we have some Belgian people on the login page now, because I don't know if people have been noticing. Hopefully they're observant enough to realise that you get a new login image for each release that we do. And I think, Laura, you were sitting with these people, weren't you?
Yeah, you can actually see my arm on the right.
Is this your arm here? Oh, you're probably working on the date time picker in the background. Lovely.
Maybe.
And I think.
But yeah, it's nice to see this picture.
It was one of the chap in the blue. I can't remember his name. Did you say it was his first pull request?
Yep, he did his first pull request. At least to the CMS people.
Nice. Well, that's a nice story for people to think about when they're logging in. So, Niels, UI improvements.
Yeah.
What would you like me to point out?
Yeah, so I think it's worth noticing if you have been using 14, 15, or 16, you might have been missing the small hints of the state of a document. And we finally brought those back now, and we gave them a name called entity sign. And yeah, here you can see that the contact page has an edit that's not been published yet. And the same actually goes for the members only one you just showed there. Which is also protected. And what you may notice if you are familiar with V13 is that previously you couldn't read what such symbol were symbolizing, but now you can actually hover and you get this nice little tooltip where you can read what this symbol means. And you may also notice you can now have multiple. Before you could only have one. So if you, exactly, when you're not above, you can sort of see the two, and you can then hover to see them all and read about them. So this is also a new extension point, so you can bring your own. This is meant as an alternative for you to communicate something regarding a node. what could it be? Maybe you have a certain state that we don't know about, then this is a way for you to integrate it. There's already a few extensions out there that uses this. Sorry, Lottie.
I'm looking forward to seeing what custom entity signs people do start rolling out, because I'm sure they'll think of some. Excellent. So those are entity signs, because all these things are entities. Am I still meant to call them nodes, or am I meant to call them entities, Niels?
Well, in the front end, we see them as entities. That's the general term for a piece of content that you can group together. So all the things you can work with are entities. So that explains the very generic term. Yeah, because maybe now we see them here on documents, but in the future it should be possible to add these signs to anything. So that's why they're that generic. Yeah. Are we ready to go to the next thing? Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
This has been here since V14, but maybe you noticed that here in the tree, the tree actions are now split into two buttons. We have the three dots giving you access to what is now no longer called just tree action, but entity actions. They list up here, and then we have a shortcut to the first entity action displays next to. So that gives you an easy way to go create content.
Nice
as well,
pop-up.
There's a new thing here.
Modal
we don't
pop-up,
use the sidebars anymore. But instead now we center aligned it. That's because you can also use these entity actions from various other places. Let's say you open up the home node, Lottie. Then you can see the entity actions now up there left of the content. You can also see the entity actions on what was previously called a list view, but which is a collection. Maybe we can navigate to one.
I will remember where I've put one. Here we go. Here's a collection view.
Yeah.
The artist formerly known as list view. Yep.
Yes, exactly. And what you may notice is that these actions are also available over there in the right side, which explains why they could not be called tree actions anymore.
I see. I hadn't
noticed
that. Yeah.
In this scenario, you would have an inconsistent experience if it was either left or right aligned create modals. Instead, now we have a center aligned.
And it's just taking the first one, isn't it? So like if I go to the recycle bin, for example, the first one is to empty the recycle bin, whereas for a lot of these, it is create if they can have children.
Exactly. Yeah, and it makes, and there's an even stronger visual representation of that under settings, where you can't always create stuff. But yeah.
And this is a collection view, which has changed a bit, hasn't it? Because in ye olden times, if I'm allowed to call 13 ye olden times, when you were looking at a list view, the tree would never expand on the left, whereas now when I click here, you are getting an idea of where you are in the tree, aren't you?
Exactly. Yeah, because if you didn't know how you navigated to an item, it would be a bit hard in V13 to figure out where you ended up. And we want to enable editors to collaborate even more or work together on things. So if you got a link to this item, you would just know that you were beneath 2023. Now you can actually see the item you're on. And as you just demoed here, you can actually expand and see the other items next to.
Yeah.
It's maybe worth noticing. Important. And actually also this, if you have a very complex site with a very, very extreme structure, you maybe will have collections inside collections. This will give a way more improved understanding of where you navigated to now that you actually can see where you're at in the tree. It's also worth noticing that all collections now get this list symbol on the left side of the icon. instead of what we call a caret, which is the one you see up on the blog item, which is this little arrow. Instead, you have this list symbol, and that indicates that this is a collection. If the primary tab of your document isn't the collection, then actually that list in the left side serves as a shortcut to the collection view. I'm not sure it's important for most. I think most will have the collection as the first one, but if you didn't, that's a little extra feature.
Nice.
Yeah, and to summarize, they're not called list views anymore. They are called collections because it could be represented in other ways than a list.
Yeah, and we still have the grid feature here,
Yes.
that you can switch them over and customize as you need to. Nice attention to detail, Niels. I'd like it that you notice more things here than perhaps other people do, because it's your job. Anyway, moving on. Also part of your job is worrying about the very important topic of accessibility, which I believe we've been working hard on, haven't we?
Yes, exactly. That's one of the areas that we could improve massively now that we had to rewrite all the UI. So yeah, you can try, Lottie, just to tap around and see how everything is accessible with keyboards. And also notice if you open up this image picker or another modal of choice, then when you start tapping in here, you're not able to tap outside of it. It's your focus will be locked within the modal that you have open. So huge improvements for those navigating. Yeah, exactly. You can always escape out of a modal as well. So a lot of consistency came with the new UI. And you'll probably also see that in relation to details when you're looking around, that the things have been aligned a lot. It's also worth noticing now you can deep link into the back office in various places. Maybe you can.
I need to control click here, don't I? Control click.
You can do that, yeah, or you can right click and copy the link, or you can, yeah.
So that just opens the block. This URL is specifically for the block, yeah.
Exactly. So you could send this to a colleague, and they would get to the block that you shared with them, where in V13 you couldn't do that. So I think this is going to be great for editors who are collaborating with each other.
I agree. And yeah, the good old, I've been doing it a lot this morning, creating all those blog posts, keyboard shortcuts for the win. Control P is back. It wasn't there in 14. Yeah. I'm not quite sure when it came back, but it's now back. Yeah, and it's we're still improving, I think, the accessibility, but we've made great inroads since we first started working. So obviously there's been a lot of work. Everything has been rebuilt from scratch. So excellent. Thank you, Niels. Sorry that I talked over you a bit there, but we thought we'd give a collaborative demonstration a go. And I'm just going to try and find my slides again. There we go. Nikolai, back to you to explain why we need to talk about Models Builder again, please.
Yes, that was because for .NET 10, Microsoft has decided to obsolete the Razor runtime compilation, which came a couple of months or a month before V17, so we got a bit busy trying to work around this all of a sudden. But I think it's for a good reason. For a long time, hot reload has really been the recommended approach from Microsoft on how you should work with your views. Which also means that hot reload, or not the hot reload, but that Razor runtime compilation hasn't really gotten any love from Microsoft. So it's quite far behind in terms of language features. And there's also, understandably, it's kind of a weird situation where you kind of have your MS build, that's the way you should actually build your code, but then you have this kind of compilation engine next to it, which does some stuff. So quite understandably, Microsoft has decided to just obsolete Razor runtime compilation. which ties into Umbraco quite a bit because we have our in-memory models builder, which is really closely tied to Razor runtime compilation. It kind of works with it. So yeah, this required us to move our in-memory models builder out of the core, mainly because um, yes, mainly because it's actually you cannot use hot reload while you're also using Razor runtime compilation because Razor runtime compilation is also relying on the looking for file edits to know when it has to recompile, and that kind of interferes with hot reload.
Okay, because I have heard people saying you can't hot reload with Umbraco, and that's why it's the Razor runtime config.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's why I couldn't, because we needed to support in-memory auto, which needed to have a reference to the Razor runtime compilation library, which means you just cannot hot reload. That's just how Microsoft works. So that's really why we chose to move in-memory models builder and all of our Razor runtime compilation out of the core into a separate project, which you can see here on the slides. It's called Umbraco CMS Development Mode Backoffice, because that's kind of what defines the Backoffice development mode, as being able to change your views in the Backoffice and your data types. And that's to allow you to actually run hot reload.
Because the default, if you don't have your models mode specified in app settings, the default is still in-memory auto.
Yes.
And so when you do a fresh install of 17, you will get this package reference, and you will not have any models mode set in app settings because you'll be in-memory auto mode.
Exactly.
Not recommended practice usually for
Nope.
sites. We'd recommend, I think, that you set it to nothing and then only set it to source code, auto or manual in your development environment. If
Yes.
I've got that right,
Yeah.
Nikolai, thank you.
Yes,
So what
that's
happens
correct.
for people when they upgrade from 13 or 16 to 17? Does this package reference get added automatically?
No, you have to manually go in and add it. If you're using in-memory auto, you have to go and manually add it to your CS project.
And I guess if you're running it in memory auto mode and you haven't added this package reference, you'll get what? Will the site not load, or what happens?
You will get an exception thrown at boot, which will tell you have to go and add this package. Just spoke with
Okay.
Niklas yesterday, and you can actually still boot your site, but your templates won't work and stuff like that.
Right.
But you'll
So
be
the
notified.
short answer is if you don't use in-memory auto when you're upgrading, you don't need to worry and you don't need this extra package
Nope.
reference. If you are installing 17 and you're not going to, and you move away from in-memory auto, then is it safe to remove this package reference to this development mode Backoffice?
Yes. Yes, and if you're creating a new site, you can actually use in the template, we have a parameter called models mode, and then you can specify source code auto, and then none of this will get added, and you can just get going from the get-go.
Nice.
So
So if you don't need it, you should remove it. That's the advice, I think.
yes, and I think
Yes.
it's best if you can use source code auto or manual, because we actually just saw this morning as well from our MVP Jason that he's been doing some performance testing and saw significant performance improvements by not using in-memory auto, or rather not using Razor runtime compilation. Again, because then you don't have this rendering engine or compilation engine running next to your site.
Yeah. And that is really the whole premise of why Microsoft deprecating that entirely. And we did talk to Microsoft, I believe, about all this
Yes, we did.
to explain. Hold on, we use it, but we now have a workaround. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining all that. That was we've already done some upgrade considerations. Laura has told us that we're going to have an automatic migration for the system dates changing to UTC, unless you override it in app settings if you really, really need to. And Nikolai's just explained about the when you would need to add that package reference, but only if you're using in-memory auto models mode. Niels, what about the third item on the list?
Yeah, there's a new property editor in V17 called the single block property editor. It's a dedicated property editor to resolve what you previously know as the block list editor put into single block mode. So now, yeah, you basically have a dedicated property editor for that experience, which leaves the block list editor only concerning about if you actually want to use a list of blocks. But what you need to be aware about is if you have a block list editor in single block mode, then it will migrate to the single block property editor. So do notice that, be aware about that. The experience for editors will be the same. Yeah.
Got it. As always, the advice is to check the version-specific upgrades page on the documentation site. You can go directly from 13 to 17. Do not think that you have to upgrade through each version, but we do recommend that you go and read the breaking changes that have happened in each version that you're upgrading, you're skipping through, as it were. For some people, going from 13 to 17, if you've just used out-of-the-box property editors and haven't done much back-office customization, it's not going to be a huge task to upgrade. That is not going to be the case for everyone. We are very aware of that. There are some people who do a lot of back-office customization, so of course they've got a fair bit of work to do if they haven't done it already. It's just dependent on what's in your site, as is always the way. But Niels, is it fair to say that we don't expect such major architecture changes in the future?
Yes, surely. Yeah, we won't pull the carpet on you again. The vision for this new back office is to be flexible and future-proof. There's so many new abstractions and new architectures in place that are meant just to ensure this. So you can be safe now.
Yeah. A note about Umbraco Cloud is 17 will be available on launch day. There are some license changes coming in 17 for forms and deploy. So check the instructions about what you need to do for those license changes. Oh, just a quick one. I like knowing what's coming next. What's coming next? There's no slide for you, Niels, so you can make it up.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I'll freestyle. No, we have a plan. We are continuing on the search abstraction. As I mentioned earlier, the abstraction of search will go into core in one version. I'm not going to promise a specific one. We'll also continue polishing the back office, implementing more features. So please get started with version 17. Bring us your feedback as always, and we will adapt and make sure that your client projects will be have a great experience. In V17, but also future versions. One of the things I can say that we are going to work on feature-wise is improving the experience when you're collaborating on making content. So maybe multiple users working on the same document or similar things, developer and content editors maybe working at the same time. So look forward to that.
Yeah, and I think probably you're all looking forward to working on that in this new architecture, and now that we've got load balancing sorted. So being able to do that, I think, sounds fun. Whereas I imagine 4 years ago, it was never fun. So excellent. This is why we've been doing all this hard work.
It's maybe worth mentioning V17 is actually just the start of the future. Now we have the platform to build features where we aren't stuck as we were before. In V13, everything would have been breaking changes and been more like an archaeological investigation. Now things have clear separations, and we are able to move a bit more freely ahead. So we are really looking forward to this at HQ.
Excellent, and I'm told that the roadmap will be updated soon. Good.
Yes, very
excellent.
close.
Thank you, person updating the roadmap. Just before we finish, we really must say a few thank yous, or as we say in Umbraco land, high five you rocks, to the package maintainers who have had a lot of work to do. Most of the popular packages are have already released RCs for 17, so we really are expecting that the popular packages will be ready for 17 on launch day or soon after. So that's been a lot of work for some package maintainers, so thank you very much to them. Also, a very big thank you to the community documentation team. This is a short-term team of keen community contributors who've worked alongside with the CMS team to get all the documentation ready for 17 as well. And that's been quite a task. So I'm sorry there isn't a picture of their faces. There should be, but I'm sure they will be thanked in a blog post separately later or something, because it's been an amazing achievement. We're also excited to report that since version 16 came out, we've had 78 community contributions to the CMS code base, including 14 new contributors as well. So that's good news, and we look forward to that number just going up as people get more comfortable with the architecture of the back office. We've had a lot of people testing the RC of 17, the beta, and then the RC, and reporting issues in the excellent way that Umbraco people report issues. So thank you to them. What is it? A bug report is a gift. I'm told we should. That's how we should think of them.
Surely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an insight into how you use the software. So
completely, a good bug report is a gift. And really, just I think Niels wanted me to make sure that we said a big thank you to everyone who has been involved in this. It's been a couple of years of hard work. And so thank you to everyone who's been involved since 14 and onwards. And if we were in the office today, there'd be cake and confetti, because it's definitely worth celebrating. If you want more information, if this video wasn't enough, there is a blog post on umbraco.com, and there's a new releases site, releases.umbraco.com, which will list out all the changes that have gone into the release, the compare functions back, and it'll also list out all the names of those contributors as well. So do check that out, which only leaves me to say thank you very much to you three, not only for your hard work on version 17, but also for joining me today and talking us through the changes. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it.
thank you. That's it.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
I might cut out that pause. And time to say goodbye, I think, folks. Bye.
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 Bye.